Let's get the meeting started. I only have 2 new PRs this week that I saw. The first one is actually kind of exciting because I think Adam was trying to start looking into this himself. But we've got a contributor from Canonical that found a race condition in the Onode cache. Igor, it's related to all the same stuff that keeps harassing us over the years. Put a link in the chat window.
Yeah, I saw that, and actually I have a pending PR which hopefully fixes the same. Haven't checked this new PR, maybe it's simpler or better, but yeah, it's a known issue.
Yeah. It's a pretty simple fix. Well, maybe deceptively simple, but not a lot of code. So yeah, I added you as a reviewer, and if you have another one, Igor, is it a PR or is it just in a branch right now? Your version?
Yeah, it's a PR. Let me find the link.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Your PR is definitely more involved than this one that this user made.
Well, at first glance, this new PR looked simpler, but I need to double check if it's correct. So I'll definitely review that shortly.
Cool.
That's great to see us getting to the bottom of more of these reference scanning issues. I know the ONED references have been kind of plaguing us for a few years now.
Yeah, absolutely. Ugh. Okay. I'm just adding a link to your PR in this new one, Igor.
Well, actually, I linked the tickets. So maybe I'll link to my ticket and this new PR linked to another ticket, and actually I linked to the tickets themselves.
Okay. Cool. Okay, now I gotta get back to my Etherpad window. Okay, so there's that PR, and then we've got a new PR from Adam about improving deferred right decision making. And Igor, I was hoping I might get you to just quickly look at that too. I reviewed it. Adam's changes make sense to me. I like what he did. The only thing I'm worried about is that you had added some code maybe a year ago regarding when you've kind of got multiple chunks that you're making decisions on, and there's this has chunk to defer logic, which I confess I don't totally understand what your current code does. So I was a little afraid of removing it with what Adam's doing now. But I just wanted to, if you have time, to maybe take a glance over it and see if you agree with Adam's solution here.
Yeah, that's on my backlog as well. So I'm
Sure. Yeah,
just for vacation. So once I sort some other stuff out.
sure. No worries. Sorry. Yeah, I know I'm reaching out a lot. What Adam's doing, I think, makes sense to me at least. It seemed reasonable. He is making kind of I don't think Adam's here. Yeah, he's making the kind of conscious decision to um, uh, just kind of treat everything that the allocator gives us as a contiguous region, um, which, when the disk is full or if you get lots of little things, maybe it's not a good assumption. I don't know. But in the general case, what he's doing seemed to be reasonable. So yeah, if you get a chance, I think Yuri actually put it in testing already. So I'm not sure if the plan is to actually merge that right away or not.
That's just to get a head start on the testing, Mark. It's not like, we still want
Okay.
Igor to give a +1 for it. If there's some obvious things that's breaking. The reason being that I think Igor is also aware the next Pacific Point release relies on this. So we won't be doing the release until we have a fix for this. And there's a lot of interest. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, so anyway, yep, there's that one new as well. And that was all I saw. I didn't see anything performance relay closed or really updated this week other than those two new ones. Was there anything I missed from anybody? All right. I did not quite make it through the list of old PRs this morning. I got most of the way through, though. So there may be a couple things that got closed out here, but I'm guessing it's probably about the same as it was last week. For discussion topics, I didn't have anything listed here, but there is one thing I wanted to mention. We've got a user that is trying to use secure mode with Ceph, and they saw significantly lower client performance than I saw doing the same RBD workload, small random reads, like 16K, with not using secure mode. And I think that what we're probably seeing is that that's a fairly significant source of overhead, and especially now that Adam Emerson's Boost ASIO stuff merged, that gave us a really significant client-side performance improvement a couple of years ago. And it may be that Ceph and especially secure mode now is a bigger bottleneck than it used to be. So not 100% sure on this right now. It's just a hypothesis, but it looks like it could be like half the performance with secure mode enabled. So it's a scenario that we may need to look at coming up here. That's really all I've got at the moment, though. I'll open it up. Does anyone have anything they would like to talk about this week?
Maybe a bit unrelated to this specific meeting, but I saw your comments on RocksDB backup restore stuff. So you expressed some concerns about that, so I'd like you to elaborate a bit on that.
Sorry, I couldn't quite understand what you were saying, Igor. It was breaking up a little bit on my end. What was this in relation to?
So I saw your comments in the PR, which uses RocksDB backup restore functionality for DB recovery.
Oh,
and
yes,
you
yes.
expressed some concerns, and I'd like some elaboration. What are these concerns about?
So Adam brought that PR to my attention because he was expressing some concerns about it. And I guess the thing that I'm concerned about is, so the idea here, right, is that you've taken a snapshot of RocksDB, and if somehow your database gets corrupted or whatever, you basically just replace what's there with the old version, and then use kind of our recovery mechanism to try to get things back into like a stable state, right?
Yes.
So I guess my question is, do we actually feel like that's safe and reasonable to do? I'm not saying no. I'm just saying like I'm worried.
Well, definitely this is not 100% reliable, since you can have a mismatch between user data and metadata in this backup clone. But it might help us to make OSD recovery much faster. So instead of full, instead of need to perform full cloning of the broken OSD, you can recover from this database and then use scrubbing, deep scrubbing, to fix just broken nodes which have non-matching checksums. Not to mention that it might help in case you have multiple broken OSDs and you just don't have enough replicas to recover PGs. But if you recover OSD this way, you might get more data recovered. Actually, I have another PR on top of this stuff. I put the link in the original PR, which actually reverts BlueFS to initial state before doing the recovery. And well, I played a bit with that, and it looks like it's more stable and more reliable to bring OSD up. But anyway, the approach doesn't guarantee that all user data are valid after the recovery, but it allows us to recover OSD, at least most of it, I'd say. Well, if you have backup, if you have backup made well often enough, for example, so you are not much out of sync between backed up data DB and the actual user data on the disk.
Yeah, I guess the thing that I guess I'm most concerned about is just kind of the unknown, right? Like it I see this in my first thought is, oh my gosh, how many corner cases could we hit where something's going to end up corrupted with trying to do this approach, and maybe that's unfounded. I don't know. Fear of the unknown, right? But that's what I'm honestly most concerned about. I don't have any specific examples, just kind of concern that you could end up with a really inconsistent state.
Yeah. So in other words, it's like last hope recovery. So if everything doesn't work, you might try this to recover using this approach. At least some data.
If you're to that state though, wouldn't it almost be better just to recreate the OSD from the replicas in the cluster? I know it's slower, but
sometimes well, it's slower, and you might simply do not have enough replicas if multiple OSDs are down.
yeah. I mean,
this allows to to recover at least some data.
Sure. If you're like in a state where you don't have enough replicas to recreate things, you could maybe take this and if you acknowledge that you could end up with inconsistent state, you could maybe still get some data back though.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. I wish we had kind of gone the other way, where we store the same metadata as in RocksDB inside the object on the block device, so that if your database gets corrupted, you could recreate it from the data on the file system, or on the block, on the block side of it.
Yeah, this sounds attractive indeed. But the question is, what's the overhead of this approach? But yeah, it definitely makes sense.
So yeah, I guess I don't know. Josh and Neha, do you have any feelings about how to, if we were to approve the PRs and kind of make this available in some of the tooling that we have, how should we guide users on this? It scares me still, but maybe as a last ditch thing, it's worth having. I don't know.
Yeah, in general, I think these kind of last ditch efforts can be pretty helpful, but they do need to have some vague warnings around using them, because it's similar to like the KV store tool, like DB repair, where it has potential to and give you a kind of incomplete state that may not be so obvious from just the name of the command. So it's really just, it should be very clear in the docs and the command line that this is really a last ditch type of thing, and you may not actually get your data back. You could even get some kind of corrupted form of it.
My 2 cents is it's good to have such things in your back pocket when you have nothing to rely on. We've been there. We've been in situations where we're like, okay, only if we had something like this. So, but yeah, having that extra flag, like, there's no guarantee about full recovery is definitely something we should add. And if I recall correctly, Igor, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we do have such options already in the Blue Store tool, right? Which say that, okay, we can try as much as we can, but no, there's no guarantee.
Well, actually, Blue Store tool repair functionality performs like that.
Yep.
Yeah, so in some cases, we might still want SD up and maybe with some honors being lost. So, yeah.
Igor, you might want to talk to Adam too, because I think he was also concerned about it, and maybe he has more specific concerns than mine. Mine are just general, but he might have had more specific things he didn't like.
I can't say that I'm completely satisfied with this feature as well, but well, at least again, it just provides some additional mean to perform recovery, but it's definitely not 100% guarantee you succeed in this recovery. And in that case, keeping a copy of metadata in that main device out of RocksDB looks attractive indeed. So maybe we should consider this option and maybe start working on some design on that, because well, I could recall plenty of cases when DB is broken and we want to recover this OSD somehow, but we can't.
Yeah. I wish we had kind of done that from the get-go. Just appended the metadata to a portion of the object or something, had a portion for it.
I'd say we should probably have a sort of another log. So maybe, which is inefficient for lookups, but can be used for. So yeah, so but we can use on recovery,
Yeah.
something like that. But well, at this point, I don't have any exact solution. Just to know that, yeah, it definitely makes sense to think about it, and maybe we can keep this metadata log at fast device, not at the main device, to avoid significant overhead on each write. Maybe something like that. But yeah, that definitely worth discussion and thinking about it.
Yeah. I've always kind of thought of RocksDB as, I mean, it's right now it's the authoritative source of metadata information, right? But it's really only there for fast lookups. It's
Right. So it's good for lookups, but on the other hand, it's like a black box. So if something happens to it, we can do
yeah.
nothing.
Well, how nice would it be then, for a variety of reasons, if you did something like that? You could people could replace their DB device easily with a new one. They could get rid of the DB and recreate it. That'd be, there's so many issues right now beyond just people having corrupt DB. They decided that they want to move it from a slow device to a faster device, or have fewer on one device or something. It'd be nice if we could make it simpler for them to be able to do that.
Well, migrated DB migration is available at the moment, so it's not big deal. But recovery, that's the option that I highly appreciate.
I know that there's a way you can do it, but I thought at least it used to be that the moving the database was pretty, I don't know if complicated is the right word, but just a little bit of an intense process for a user.
Well, with recent releases, we have this option in Ceph volume, and I recall we had a bunch of cases when we performed that for our customers. So I can't say that's a tricky operation now.
Okay, that's good. All right, well, cool. Yeah, if Igor, if you're interested, I'd be happy to talk to you more about that. I think it'd be really, really nice if we had the ability to recreate the database from the block device. That'd be a killer feature. But maybe for this meeting, we can move on for now, I guess, unless people want to talk about that. One thing actually not related to that topic, Igor, I did want to talk to you about is Adam and I have been talking a lot about deferred rights lately, and one of the things, maybe the heretical position I've been taking, is that we should just get rid of them entirely and move to a model where we write to a small portion of the flash device as a non-deferred write, and then instead migrate data over to a slow device after the fact. Not as part of the actual write process, but as kind of just a later deferred process. I think Adam's not totally on board with it yet. He's still trying to think about ways to make deferred write better. But I was hoping maybe since you're here, if I could get your take on things. What do you think?
Yeah, this sounds good enough as well. So at this point, I dislike RocksDB quite significant. So the less load we have there, the better to me. Uh, so yeah, maybe it makes sense to.
One of the questions was kind of like where to do it. I started looking into the kernel device and block device interface, and I'm wondering if there's some way I can basically create a new kind of abstracted block device implementation that takes two kernel devices and then makes decisions about where to write data to, and then from there maybe even behind BlueStore could kind of migrate data from one to the other. But you'd probably want some kind of hinting through that block device interface regarding um, when you should defer, if it's something that's short-lived, these kinds of things. But what do you think?
I'm afraid you might need some additional metadata to keep that stuff, which is not present at kernel device level. So just speculating so far, but well, abusing BlueFS for this purpose look more attractive to me.
Yeah, BlueFS already has a lot of this, right? Like their extents actually know what devices is sitting on, whereas we
Right.
don't have that.
It keeps a sort of file system which permits some metadata tracking, I'd say. So yeah, I am afraid it's not enough to have just a pure kernel device for this stuff. So we need a sort of file system,
Yeah.
a data tracking system. So
Do you think we could use BlueFS? Would that be crazy?
uh, well, at least this looks like maybe primary option to try.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I was kind of heading down the kernel device trying to do it that way path, but I agree with you. I'm nervous about the metadata that's needed and what changes would have to happen to that interface to really make it work. Hmm. Okay. I was also thinking one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you about it is I was thinking about your write ahead log work, and I was thinking about how once we've written data into the write ahead log, I wonder if we could do that scheme we kind of have talked about in the past where maybe you can almost treat the part that you've written into the write ahead log like an extent. Like you've already got the data there, it's already on the fast device. Maybe you could actually treat that as if it's like your kind of intermediate copy of the data you can read from, and then slowly as you merge things over to the slow device, you can clean up old logs behind, and otherwise you just leave the existing logs in place until you're done with them.
Yeah, maybe, and this reminds another use case for this, potential use case for this write ahead log, which is PG logging. So yeah, maybe we need an abstraction like that to keep a bunch of logs out of RocksDB. And this might be PG log, this deferred write log, and RocksDB write ahead log. And yeah, I'm not sure if they should be mixed or maybe kept tracked independently. But it looks like we have a bunch of use cases for for stuff like that. So yeah, worth some
Yeah. If
some
you
try and maybe some design efforts.
It'd be really nice if you've already written to the fast device for the log and you've already got the data sitting there, if you didn't have to rewrite it back into the fast device or kind of a fast layer that then later gets moved into the slow device. It'd be nice if you could just leave it in place and treat it as that data is like a new extent.
Yeah, and well, the idea is pretty the same for all the use cases. So you want to perform writing fast, and then you want to apply some post-processing to sort things out and put them the slower device to DB in a arranged manner or whatever, or maybe
Yeah,
throw them away for PG log. So yeah, we need an entity which is able to accept data fast, keep them in an unsorted manner, and then provide the ability to sort them out.
yeah.
And again, there are multiple use cases for that.
My hope is that we can basically just completely get rid of the deferred write path. I just don't want it to exist anymore.
Yeah, the same apply for current pglog stuff and maybe to RocksDB replicated log. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was all I wanted to bring up to you, Igor. Since there's a lot of work kind of in different people looking at different things, but there's this kind of unifying desire, I think, to try and make all of this simpler and make more sense. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
but as we discussed that before, all these modifications look pretty dramatic. So at some point, I'd like to fork the stored
yeah,
implementation, keep the legacy one, and maybe uh, go ahead with new one, because making such changes to existing code base, well, it's dangerous and it's
yeah,
material and so on and so forth.
yeah. It's probably a good point that at some point we have to decide what's reasonable to do to Blue Store and whether or not we should make like a Blue Store 2 or something.
Mhm.
And even, what Blue if we did something like this, what are we recreating C Store, or are we, are changes more limited to really just trying to clean up and fix the kind of major warts that are in Blue Store? At one point, I was even thinking in Blue Store, it wouldn't be impossible to kind of adopt a sharded write path where we have multiple instances of RocksDB and we have specific shards handling specific PGs. It didn't look impossible to me, but like that's almost recreating CStore and in Crimson at that point. Not entirely, but sort of. So I don't know.
Well, I had that idea about maybe sharding TP instance in Blue Store as well. So it
Yeah,
looks doable. Actually, it looks doable.
me too.
But
Yeah,
again, it's better to have parallel experimental implementation than try to fit everything in a stable one.
yeah. I had started working on a branch
We,
to
we,
as well, Igor, like the sharding. And I think there's a couple of little irritating areas where like you'd have to change things to make it work, but it didn't actually seem as bad as I thought it would be at first. I don't know if that was your experience or not when you were looking at it.
well, Unfortunately, I didn't have chance to try that, so can't say. It looks doable, but well, hard to predict any performance improvement on that stuff. So definitely should help in case when we uh, fully utilize this KV-sync thread. So if this thread becomes a bottleneck, then charging GP instances might help. But well, sometimes, well, this might be well. I saw these cases for some artificial benchmarking, but I'm not sure if it's really an issue in production environments.
I think beyond the KV sync thread, the way that the sharded opwork queue works right now, and especially the way that we kind of try to fill things in with the messenger threads and then let those the worker threads go to sleep and wake back up based on the status of the queue. That it all I've seen some evidence that this kind of model is not ideal.
Yeah.
That whole side of it too. If we can figure out a better way to kind of make that whole pipeline work faster. Maybe even as simple as just kind of some kind of back off polling. Okay, well, I don't have anything more, guys. That was really kind of
well, maybe one more topic, which
sure.
I'm not sure if we have anything to discuss, but we might want to. So, well, we definitely need some solution for RocksDB performance drop after bulk removals. So I saw plenty of cases, various cases, to be honest, and still with us.
So
Don't know how to do that, but this definitely needs some attention.
I had a PR where I was starting to kind of talk about some of that stuff. This thing here, and you're specifically talking about bulk removals when you don't have rights to forced compaction, right?
Well, it's often hard to say why RocksDB is unable to perform its regular maintenance or automatic compaction. So what I definitely know is that RocksDB might get into the state when it performs badly, and highly likely this is related to previous bulk removals. And manual compaction fixes that.
It does.
Yeah, I saw that for backfilling. We saw that with NGW bucket list, bucket resharding, and I believe plenty of other use cases.
So there are two separate issues, right? One is fragmentation at the SST level, and one is fragmentation at the tombstones in memtables themselves. The PR I linked. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
The PR I linked in the chat window. It adds the ability to set this sliding window for when you're doing iteration. tombstones, it will trigger compaction. So that helps in the case of the SST file tombstone behavior. If you have too many tombstones and you're doing it, then it will force compaction. So that PR will help there, but it doesn't help with the memtable problem if you have too many tombstones in the memtable.
Okay, do we have any ideas how to at least indicate that cluster is exposed to this issue? Maybe something like how many tombstones we have or whatever. Just so right now we even lack any diagnosis tools. So well, we can see that cluster is in bad shape, but in fact we are unable to say what's happening. So
I'm actually hoping that this PR will fix a lot of the problems where you have tombstones in too many tombstones in the SSD file, right? Because on this one, if you're iterating and you hit too many, it'll trigger the compaction, and then it should move quickly after that. My hope is that this PR will actually help fairly dramatically in that case. It's the other case with the memory tables that I don't even know how often that is a problem for us. Tombstones and mem tables.
Yeah, that's the question actually. So right now we are unable to even say if something is wrong with the cluster. I mean, we don't have any metrics to trace.
Yeah, and I don't think RocksDB even like gives you that for mem tables. Like the mem table side and the SST side are like really separate. I wanted to see if I could re-implement this this capability that they have for this sliding window in RocksDB to do the same thing for memtable tombstones, and it's not the same. Like it would be, you'd have to do it differently, I think. Maybe we can still do it there, or maybe there's some way that we could expose more information from RocksDB, like whether or not you've created Tombstone in the mem table and we can track it or something. But RocksDB doesn't seem like it gives you a lot for this kind of problem. The other thing we could do, though, this is what I was originally thinking of doing, is we could actually track deletes ourselves at the RocksDB abstraction layer. And if we've issued too many deletes before a compaction has taken place, because I think we can ask RocksDB to do a callback when compaction happens. So we could watch for compactions, and if we've done too many deletes before compaction, or memtable flush, that's the other one, memtable flush, then we can say, oh, we might be in a bad state. Let's force compaction. And then we can track how many deletes have taken place since the last memtable flush and the last compaction. But it's kind of weird with column families because you have to track every single one.
Yeah, maybe.
That was what I was originally thinking of doing, but it's complicated and it's big. Like, it's a lot of work. It'd be nice if we could just, have RocksDB fix this themselves or help RocksDB fix this and not do all that.
Yeah.
Do you have any tests that have the problem right now? Like, I'd love to know if this PR helps.
Fortunately, no. So I'm unaware about any reliable way to reproduce the issue. So it greatly depends on the hardware. It looks like it depends on the hardware, on the access pattern.
I mean, definitely if you are doing no writes you've done a lot of deletes and you're doing no writes and then you're doing iteration. You should be able to reproduce it, I think, right?
Hopefully, yes, but well, I haven't seen any reproducible behaviors, but can say that I tried hardly on that.
Sure. When Adam and I were talking about this PR, he did want to move the RocksDB changes for the settings out, but some of those settings actually do seem to help a little bit with certain behaviors. So I'm tempted to leave it in, but I don't know. It's okay either way, really. We could split this into two separate PRs and try to test each individually. The setting changes are the ones from the blog article that I made. This thing here. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, Igor, if you know, I'd be happy to get back into this again if we want to try to make it better. We should.
Yeah. I'll take a look at this. Yeah. But yeah, definitely I'd like to be able to reproduce this issue and, on the one hand, and be able to diagnose it with
Yeah.
methods in the field.
I do suspect this PR is good. Like I don't think it's bad. We're exposing functionality in RocksDB, and you know we don't need to change the defaults. We can remove that if we want to. I think it's helpful, but we don't need to do that. We could just expose these other options from RocksDB. But I think it's a win. Just no one's approved it because no one is able to test it right now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, does anyone have anything else? If not, then thanks for coming, everyone, and have a great week.
Thank you.
Yep. Talk to you later, guys. Bye.
Thanks. See you later.